The Haftarah of Parshas Vayigash tells of a prophecy that Hashem tells Yechezkel, take two sticks, each one representing one of the kingdoms of Judaism. One stick should have the name of Yehuda, one stick should have the name of Yosef. Bring them together, because at the end of times, these two kingdoms, the splintered kingdoms of Judaism, of Yehuda and of Yosef, will become one. And who will be the king in that one kingdom? The ultimate king will be Mashiach, who comes from Yehuda. That's the prophecy. Now the question is, what exactly does that represent? Why is it in Judaism that there was always two different kings? What does each king represent? Why was this never resolved? And what does that mean when Mashiach comes? Both will merge, and we're going to have one king from Yehuda specifically, which will merge the two kingdoms of Judaism. To understand this, we need to look at the names of both Yosef and Yehuda. And we're going to find that this is a very basic debate that we often go through in our own heads, that the school systems that our children go to often hold tension between these two drachim. As poetry famously puts it, the debate between to be or not to be. Yosef's approach is to be. The word Yosef means to add, to expand, to grow. Yosef's Judaism is a Judaism which grows, where the Jew stands at full posture, and a Jew is a confident person, because Judaism and life is about bringing out your best self. We need to follow Torah, we need to follow mitzvahs, because that is the only way the Jew could be truly content, could be truly happy, could truly be himself. He has to follow the rules of Torah and mitzvahs. But the point of Torah and mitzvahs ultimately is to bring out the best him. The point of Yehuda, though, what does the word Yehuda mean? The exact opposite of Yosef. If Yosef means to be moisif, to add and to expand, Yehuda means like moida ani, moidim, to bend, to submit, to give oneself over. Yehuda's approach is not to be. Yehuda's approach is not to be. That the purpose of Judaism and the purpose of life is not about fulfilling the best me. It's about me reaching a place where I could give myself over to the truth for what it is. And these are two approaches that we often go through very often. Sometimes we're trying to look for meaning in our Judaism, for meaning in life, to suck the marrow out of life. And sometimes we become much more idealistic and say, why am I always looking for, ask not what I need from God, but ask what God needs from me. For us to be able to let go of ourselves a little bit, like Yehuda, and to submit to a higher reality. And these are why there was two kings, Yosef and Yehuda. And historically, Judaism had two kings, because these are two kosher approaches to Judaism. Each one has its dangers if it spins out of control. Yosef could become egocentric. The path of Yosef could become egocentric, completely about the self, and disregarding anything that gets oneself uncomfortable. The danger of the approach of Yehuda by itself is that one could just become ashmata, completely lose his sense of self, squash who he is, the way God created him, and just become hollow inside in the name of being subservient to a higher reality, which, in the meantime, the gifts and the personality that God gave him, he has squashed. So which one's right? And in Galus, it's not so clear. But when Mashiach comes, both will merge as Yehuda being the ultimate king. That means when Mashiach comes, what changes when Mashiach comes than now? Now, the self is a bit of a contradiction to Yosef and Yehuda are a contradiction. Yosef represents bittul, given overness. Yehuda represents given overness. Yosef represents the self. The self is a contradiction to given overness to God. But when Mashiach comes, we're going to find out how the truest self of the person is submission to God. And therefore, the submission when Mashiach comes, we're going to realize, yes, the ultimate of life is giving oneself over to Hashem. Yehuda will be the ultimate king. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be a Yosef. Yosef will be there fully present. The Jew will be fully confident, fully happy. The Jew will fully be himself. But that self will not be an ego that blocks out devotion to God. That will be a self, that the self itself is completely devoted to God. Now we are in a time where we need a herald in Mashiach, which means that we can't suffice with either being Yosef or being Yehuda, either being a Jew who negates himself for the sake of God, or being a Jew who's self-serving and uses God as a way of fulfilling himself. Nowadays, to bring in Mashiach, we all need to have both. As the great Rebbeim said, every Jew must have 2 pieces of paper in his pockets. One paper in one pocket must say, Anochi afar v'efer, I am but dust of the ground, and the other pocket needs to say, Bishvili nivra ha'olam, the world was created for me. Or perhaps, as Chassidus says, the word of bittul, the word of self-transcendence and given overness to God is ayin. You know what else the words ayin, aleph, ayin, yud, are also the same letters as ani. Because when we look really, really deep at the Jew, and when the Jew's essence really comes out, who is the self of the Jew? Who is this successful, confident Jew? In his essence, he's a walking piece of God. So what does given overness to God really look like? It looks like when the Jew could fully be himself. But fully being himself, not in an egotistical way, when the self of the Jew himself, the successful Jew, the one that stands strong, tall, proud, and confident, that itself is a walking bittul. That bittul, that ani and ayin has become one. Good Shabbos.